Audio is awesome. As long as the music sounds good, I can go from cassette to CD to mini disc and, of course, iTunes. Typically, when I listen back to any one of these formats, it'll usually be on a separate hi-fi system. Of course, though, sometimes you do want to use headphones, especially with things like the iPod, and usually my go-to pair of headphones are actually the classic Apple EarPods. Now, I know these are not really anything fancy, but considering these were included back in the day with your iPhone or iPod, these are fantastic. They're simple, and at least for me, they've always been reliable. They're very compact, but they also have very good sound quality. Now, I understand that if you don't like the sound quality on these, you're free to use whatever you want. But at least for me, these have always worked out well. Now, even though the EarPods are great, they are not the only headphones that I use. When I'm on my Mac Mini using Final Cut Pro to edit all these videos, I'm always using these right here. These are my Audio-Technica headphones, and they actually classify these as studio monitors. Now, these are specifically the ATH-M40X. Now, obviously, when you compare these to the EarPods, these are definitely going to sound better because they have actual drivers, and at least to me, these are the best headphones that I've used because they're the best ones that I have. I know that if any audio plays back fine on these, it'll play back really well on pretty much anything else. Now, there's a lot of differences between these two setups, but one thing they have in common is that they both use wires. Yeah, the Audio-Technicas are actually wired headphones, but the cable is detachable. So to get a truly wireless experience, we're going to take a look at some awesome Sony headphones that are almost as old as this iPod. This right here is the Sony RF stereo transmitter, model number TMR-RF970R. Fantastic model number, I know. I guess it does actually make some sense though, because TMR is probably for transmitter, RF is for RF, and 970 indicates the specific model. There's also a version out there where it's a 925 instead of a 970. But of course, these are not the headphones. This is just the docking station. According to the product information, it seems like these were released around 2007. And based on the glossy plastics, it does match up because this is when they started to use the late 2000s designs and move away from the silver era. But the thing I like the most about this time period of Sony design is that it still goes really well with equipment from the 90s, but you can just as easily use this with more modern components. Of course though, these are always going to look the best with hardware that was released around the same time as these. As we saw on the base station though, these are actually really interesting because they use RF. They are not Bluetooth, they use radio frequency. So as long as you have a good connection, minimal interference, and you have the base station hooked up to whatever you want to listen to, you're going to have audio on the headphones. You don't have to deal with Bluetooth connectivity, you don't have to deal with all of that modern nonsense. It's literally a simple plug-and-play solution. So if these are so awesome, then why not use them? Well, yeah. The material on the ear pads are kind of falling apart because these are not exactly new headphones anymore. Now everything else does need to be cleaned up as well, but fortunately all the plastics are actually in good shape. And as for the degrading material, I actually plan on removing all of this because even though you can get replacement ear pads, I haven't used these at all and I want to see how good they actually sound. So to really show you guys how bad the ear pads are, we have a G5 door cover here for better contrast because, I mean, the moment you really just look at these, the material starts to just fall off. Like, it's crazy. And not to mention, it also goes all over the place here, so at least this will make it a bit easier to clean up. We're going to take a close look at the headphones, the dock, and the cables. But first, I'm going to clean most of this off camera because apart from the ear pads, everything is actually in really good shape. It's just a bit dusty from sitting around over the years, but otherwise, the plastics don't really have any damage at all, and I'm sure this is going to clean up really nicely. Considering we have a lot of glossy plastic, it honestly could be worse. Yeah, it is a bit scratched up in some places, but structurally the plastic itself is still in good condition. Having the headphones here on the G5 panel, it honestly reminds me of the early iTunes icon, which is actually pretty cool. But anyways, everything is now cleaned up, but there really wasn't that much to clean up in the first place. The cables themselves are basically brand new. Cosmetically, they are perfect. And in fact, the power supply had what I assumed to be the original factory twist tie. Pretty insane if that's actually the case, but still nice to have. So for audio, we have a standard 3.5mm to RCA cable, but honestly, it's always nice to have these, especially when you're using multiple setups because they're always handy to have. The power supply is a standard wall adapter. It has a barrel jack connection and it supplies 12 volts DC. You can definitely tell that it's a Sony. The model number is ACS1202S. I definitely spent the most amount of time trying to clean up the ear pads, and it's also by far the worst part of the setup here. Now they will still work to at least try out the headphones in the first place, but it's obviously not ideal for long term. Now I was able to actually remove all of that material that was actively disintegrating, and even though the actual foam is still in okay shape, that's pretty much the only good thing left about these ear pads. Having some replacements would be awesome, but it would be nice to actually make sure that these are working as intended. At first, the dock itself might not seem that interesting, but it has some very cool features built in. There's a lot of cool technology within this dock. Obviously, it's a Sony. We have a very convenient power LED indicator right here, and it also changes red when the headset is charging. Now with all wireless devices, they're going to have a built-in battery. Sometimes you'll have to reinstall it in the dock and connect the contacts so that way it charges up, or some kind of charger on the device itself. But in this case, you're looking at the charger right now. Believe it or not, this thing actually has a built-in wireless charger. So this is honestly a truly wireless setup. Now, even though these work like a more modern device because they are wireless, the advantage of it being from 2007 is that you are not just limited to Bluetooth. You actually have the choice between two different inputs here: standard RCA line level input or a headphone jack input. You could honestly just use these headphones with pretty much anything. So obviously we have power right here, but the other cool feature about the dock is that you can change which channel it's actually transmitting on. So say you have like two headphones and you want to have the same audio between both of them. You just have to make sure that they're both selected to channel 1. Or if you have two of them, but you want to have two different types of audio on both of the headphones, you could select one of them to be on channel 1 and the other on channel 2. And of course, I mean, you can see there's also a channel 3. So if you really went all out on this setup here, there's a lot of things you can do with this, and you won't really have to worry about conflicting audio because Sony took care of that. Now these obviously don't have as much functionality as compared to a Bluetooth headset, but again, it's not Bluetooth, it's RF. It's playing back whatever signal the dock is receiving, and honestly, with the way that you can use these, you don't necessarily need to have all of that built into the headset. If you look around for a power button, you're not going to find one. The only thing you're going to find is the power LED. The reason why is because the power switch is actually built into the headband. But it also has a very nice and easy to access volume control. We also have an automatic tuner. All you have to do is press the button and it'll automatically find whatever signal is being transmitted from the dock. And as for the left headphone, this is the only thing you see. Pressing that button actually reveals another secret feature. So this has a cover which is extremely easy to remove, and the best part is that the battery is user accessible. So this does have a Sony rechargeable battery. It's a nickel metal hydride, and I honestly don't know if this still holds a charge. I guess we could try it out, but as you can see, we could easily remove this. This means, unlike newer devices where the batteries might be built in and soldered into place, all you have to do is remove the cover, and we could just install standard AAA batteries. You could also use rechargeable AAA batteries, and because there have been improvements in battery technology, I'm sure that you could even get a longer runtime. A small detail such as a battery that you can remove without any tools required makes it so that these headphones will probably outlast some newer ones made today. So now that we have everything cleaned up and we know a bit more about the entire setup here, I'm going to try out the headphones and see how they compare against the Audio-Technicas and the Apple EarPods. And as for the battery, I will still try it out to see if it accepts the charge, but again, not that big of a deal because it is replaceable. So I tried out the headphones, and while we do have some good news, we unfortunately also have some bad news. First off, the battery situation. Now the dock does seem to actually know when the headphones are installed, and it also seems like the wireless charger is working, but it seems like the factory battery doesn't do anything anymore. With batteries that actually work, the headphones do power up, and the power supply for the dock also works without a problem. The thing is though, it seems like we have an issue with the headphones because, first of all, we don't have audio on the left channel. And secondly, even though the headphones do actually feel pretty comfortable to wear, it doesn't really sound all that good. I think it's just an issue of something failed within the headphones themselves, or potentially even the dock. I don't really have a way I can test this out because I don't have a spare set of headphones, but compared to the Audio-Technicas and even the EarPods, they don't really sound all that great. So as you can hear, the headphones do work, but when you're actually using them, again, the audio quality just seems really off. There's something going on with the speakers themselves, or maybe something about the left channel circuitry. Now, I tried different cables, I tried different audio sources, and I even tried different channels for the RF signal. Nothing seems to fix it at all. So, was it a waste of time to clean these up before trying them out? I mean, I guess you could look at it that way, but the way I see it is that these are actually clean now, and if I ever do get another pair of similar headphones or even the exact same model, I now have a dock that I can try them out with, and at the very least, I guess you could use these headphones as like something to monitor audio, or maybe just to try out audio sources, because I mean, they do work. Like, the audio control itself does function. Now, I'll be honest, I am a bit disappointed that they aren't actually working 100%. Even with the problems, these are still pretty decent headphones. The build quality is nice, and I will say that, at least from what I can tell, as long as you have a good connection to the dock, the RF signal is actually pretty decent. The Audio-Technicas are still by far the better set of headphones, but for a wireless pair from 2007, these are still really cool. According to the specifications, it seems like these should have a really good range of sound reproduction, but I'm just not hearing that in this case, and because of that, I'm really not able to give a fair review of these headphones because, honestly, all I can hear is mids and highs, there's no bass at all, and the louder the audio is, the more tinny it actually sounds. It's gotta be an issue with the drivers because these are Sony headphones after all. They should sound better than this, especially a higher end model. But I guess we could always invest in the RF stereo market because, well, it's wireless, it's very cool technology, and we do already have all of the parts here. Of course, there's going to be better alternatives because it's not 2007 anymore. Now, these would have been super awesome to use with either the iTunes setup, the 90s hi-fi setup, or maybe even both, but unfortunately, we just don't have the magic of two of them today. If you enjoyed today's video though, then consider leaving a thumbs up, and if you want to see even more awesome content, then consider subscribing. But that's it for now. As always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.